Ilia Topuria is a superstar. There is no denying it. He just went up a weight class and put Charles Oliveira out cold. I know Charles Oliveira has been dropped, but I don't think he's been knocked out like that. All that talk about whether he was too small for the division or if his power would translate, even I was asking those questions, but all those questions have been answered. I understand if you want to see him lose because you don't like how arrogant he is, but the sport needs this. And when a fighter is arrogant but has the skills to back it up, then I don't see what there's not to like. This isn't a Bo Nichols situation where he claims that he should be a minus 1,000 favorite against Hamza but struggles against Paul Craig. Ilia backs up everything he says. It's also risky to do what he does. It's easy to be respectful before the fight and then start talking once the fight is over. It takes a lot of risk to talk a big game before the fight, but be respectful afterwards. He's always taking the chance to look dumb if the fight doesn't play out in his favor. So what is next for Ilia? Paddy Pimblett entered the cage after Ilia's win, and I was confused because I don't feel like that's the fight to make. Joshua Van entering the octagon after Pantoja's win made sense. And it seems that Dana White felt the same way. He said he didn't know about Paddy entering the cage and it wouldn't have happened on his watch. But he was also asked about Arman Tsarukyan making weight as the backup. And Dana White talked about how it was a step in the right direction, but also brought up how he missed weight the last time he was given a title shot. And it does seem like Dana White and the UFC staff do not like Tsarukyan. And I understand, right? He ruined that pay-per-view event. If he doesn't like Paddy Pimblett entering the cage, and he doesn't want him to get a title shot, and he also doesn't want Arman Tsarukyan to get the title shot, I'm hoping that this does not mean that Justin Gaethje is next. That would be the worst contender out of all the options. Because think about it, Ilia Topuria, I don't know how long he's in a fight. He doesn't strike me as a guy who'll be fighting when he's 35, 36, 37, right? You want to get the most out of him. You want to get the best matchups possible. A Justin Gaethje matchup is a waste. It's a waste for the fans. It's a waste for Topuria, right? It's a waste for fans because we know what's going to happen. And it's a waste for Topuria because he deserves to add to his legacy and he just won't get the credit for the Gaethje win. There's a very easy solution to all of this in my opinion. Ilia fights Arman and Paddy fights Gaethje for the number one contender spot. This is also good for Paddy, I think, because it increases the hype for his fight against Ilia even more. I think Paddy is one win away still. That fight would be big if it were to get booked right now. But to reach his full potential, I think Paddy needs one more win. And he will be able to beat Gaethje. I think Paddy Pimblett beats Gaethje relatively easily. And Ilia versus Gaethje would most likely result in them making Paddy versus Arman for the number one contender fight. And I think that's the worst outcome possible because Ilia beats Gaethje easily. And then out of Arman versus Paddy, we only get to see Ilia fight one of them. When I think we should be able to get... Those are the two guys I want to see Ilia fight. And we can just make the Arman fight right now. Paddy can fight somebody else for the number one contender spot. And then we can see Ilia fight both of them if he wins, if he beats Arman. I think people want to see the build-up for this Pimblett versus Ilia fight as soon as possible. But let's just see Paddy establish himself even more. Because although I do think it is possible for it to be a competitive fight, I think the general consensus, if that fight were to happen right now, is that Paddy is nowhere near Ilia's level and he's going to get slumped in round one. So I just want the fans to be even more familiar with Paddy, and I think he can do that by having a finish against a fan favorite like Gaethje. And if we're just talking about competitiveness, I said this before the Charles Oliveira fight, that Ilia's most competitive fight in this division, I think, is Tsarukyan. I think it'd be his hardest fight in the UFC, harder than Volk, harder than Holloway, and definitely harder than Oliveira. Like I said earlier, Ilia's 28, but I don't know how long he has in this sport. The guys I want to see him fight as of right now are Arman, Paddy, and Islam. I don't need to see him fight Gaethje. I don't need to see that happen. And it seems like Dana White's on board. He was asked about how Gaethje is threatening retirement if he doesn't get a title shot, and Dana White, he said the thing he always says, that once you start thinking about retirement, that maybe you should retire. And I want to see Ilia fight as soon as possible. I don't think he needs to take these big breaks in between his fights. And if you make him wait for the winner of Paddy versus Arman, then we might not see him for another year. The hype behind Ilia versus Paddy will only grow if they both get one more win before they face off against each other. Maybe that fight can happen in the UK, maybe it can happen in Spain, and it could have the build-up that I think Floyd versus Conor had. They can go on those tours, or I guess Aldo versus Conor is a better example, but they can go on those tours all across the world and promote that fight. I think it would be on that level. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you want to see Ilia Topuria fight next? Until next time, peace.